Did you guys know that today, June 1st, is Global Running Day? I mean, sure, it's totally not some made-up holiday. Yeah, and while, of course no one knows it's Global Running Day or even, what that means, I am excited that Garmin is taking this opportunity to introduce not just one, but two of their extremely popular Forerunner series watches. Today, Garmin announced an all-new top-of-the-line triathlon watch, the 955, and this is the all-new Forerunner 255. And although the Forerunner 200 series of watches typically is supposed to be their kind of, mid-tier running watch, I think someone at Garmin might have made a mistake here, because this thing has a ton of Garmin's, high-end features, as well as some stuff that we haven't even seen before on Garmin watches. So in this video, we'll talk about all of the details of this new Forerunner 255, what's new with it, my experience using it over the past 2 weeks, how it holds up as a running watch as well as a triathlon watch. It has triathlon, and my overall buying recommendations when it comes to the new 255 from Garmin. Now, I think it's odd. In a lot of ways, I'm more excited about this Garmin Forerunner 255 than the all-new 955 that Garmin also released today. And I do have a separate video talking about that. If you want to check it out, I'll leave a link to it up here somewhere and at the end of this video. But this Forerunner 255 is such a nice update. The watch itself comes in a 41mm size option, they call it the 255S, and a 46mm option that they just call the 255. And the watch comes in a few color options. The 255S comes in a powder gray and a light pink, and then the 255 comes in a slate gray and a tidal blue. But there's also a music version of each size, and that comes in either black or white stone. And the 255 costs either $350 or $400 for either size with the music option. I'll leave links in the description below with just the best place to buy, as well as any sort of discount codes that I can find for you guys. But the smaller 255S only weighs in at about 32 grams, while this one, the 46mm 255, comes in at about 49 grams. And I'd say, that neither of these watches are extremely heavy, and I don't think it's something that you're really gonna notice when you're just kind of wearing it day to day. And I always think that it's really the depth of the watch that makes it feel bulky, or how high it sits up on your wrist. In the 255S, the depth is about 12.5mm, whereas the 255 is a little bit closer to 13mm. And throughout this video, the watch that I'll mostly be showing is that 46mm size watch with the slate gray color. The watch actually has this, ever so slight red highlight to it. Honestly, I like it. I like the way that this watch looks. That little subtle red accent color around the trim of the watch and around the selection button. It's not a luxury watch by any means. It's, clearly a sports watch. You could bedazzle it or something like that if you ever wanted to make it look a little bit sharper. But the screen is also bigger on the 255 compared to its older counterpart, that 245. The new screen is a 1.3 inch, and it's, a nice 260 pixel display, whereas the 255S is a 1.1 inch screen with a 218 pixel display. And then both of those watches all come with 4 gigs of memory. I'll put a little size comparison with, a bunch of other Garmin watches, and you guys can pause this and take a look if that might be helpful. The watch also has a 22mm silicone strap. I think it's pretty comfortable. It has a very nice quick release strap, so if you do want to switch it out, that's an easy option. And then as far as battery life goes, you can expect about 2 weeks in smartwatch mode, a few less days for that 255S, and somewhere between 16 hours and 30 hours of battery life when using it in GPS tracking mode. And that all is very largely dependent upon which GPS mode you choose, which is, also another new item on this watch. Basically, you can choose between no GPS, GPS only, all systems or all system plus multiband for the most accurate GPS signal. There's also a GPS ultra tracking mode, which is a very low battery option that'll basically double the battery life. And it's meant for, you know, those multi-day hiking expeditions where accuracy isn't quite as important. And again, the 255S generally gets a few less hours in each of those modes than the bigger 255. But in theory, you know, either of these watches should be able to go for a full Ironman distance event. And I will say that, you know, using music during an activity will pretty much cut the battery life in half. Now, there are some really nice updates to this watch on the software side. For example, you know, when you wake up, this watch will have something new and it's called your morning report. You can dismiss it or you can dive into it, but it consists of your daily suggested workout, and that's based on your training history. But in this example, it thinks that I need to rest, which is probably accurate, but I can always drop in some footage here of the 955 where it's suggesting a long run and a long bike ride. But the next screen on your morning report is all of your sleep tracking data. I really like tracking my sleep data. It'll track, you know, how long you slept as well as, you know, how you progress through each sleep stage. So that's, you know, light sleep, REM sleep, deep sleep, or awake, and, you know, how you've cycled through that through the night. I'd say general amount of hours slept might be accurate, but as far as like sleep stages goes, you know, I would say, you know, don't worry your pretty little mind. But the next morning report screen is your HRV status. And this is brand new to this watch. It's pretty cool. HRV stands for heart rate variability, and it's a really good gauge for how well your body is recovering from workouts. I'd say it's a little counterintuitive, but the higher your variability is, the more ready your body is for a hard workout. Or on the other side of the coin, you know, after a hard workout, your HRV might be lower. I like to think of it like, you know, my heart worked really hard and it's beating steady trying to recover. Now, I'm definitely oversimplifying this, but your HRV is gonna play a big role in your overall training readiness. Now, the last thing on the morning report is just a weather report, which, you know, I think is pretty nice. I do use the morning report each morning. I like to flip through it, and it's a nice way to start your day. But there's also more software options that are new here that are pretty cool. They have a new race day widget. So if there's a cycling or a running race on your Garmin Connect calendar, you can sync it over to your watch, and the widget will give you a little countdown, give you a race day prediction for time, and then, you know, weather if it's available for that particular race at the race location. Just cycling and running, I do wish that they would do, you know, swimming or triathlon options as well. But this watch also includes Garmin Pay. So, you know, if your bank is supported, you can pay for items just with your watch. I'll leave a link to participating banks in the description of this video. And then this watch does come with Garmin's latest optical heart rate monitor. Garmin calls it their Elevate Optical Heart Rate Monitor. I think they're on like version 4.0, but it can also monitor things like your blood oxygen saturation. I have noticed that that does take a hit on the battery, so I tend to turn it off unless I'm, you know, traveling to altitude or doing something along those lines. But personally, you know, when I've compared this watch to a chest strap, which is typically very accurate, I've been getting some extremely accurate results. Here's my wife's 7-mile trail run. And that's with this 255 in light blue and then the chest strap in purple. And you know, it's pretty typical for wrist optical heart rate monitors just to take a little bit of time to kind of lock on. But after that, you know, I think it's showing some really good data here. And then, you know, looking at GPS accuracy, I've been super impressed with this 255. It seems to be, you know, just as good or better than anything else that I've tested on this channel to date. Now, I'm guessing that most of you are interested in this watch as a running watch, but it does also have open water swimming as an activity type. So I did test that a couple times just at my local lake. In one case, I did have trouble like getting a signal, but then in a second swim, it seemed to track pretty well. I'm planning on doing a lot more testing, potentially like just like an open water shootout video amongst a whole bunch of different GPS watches, if that's something that you guys are interested in. But you know, here's the crazy part about this watch. It's a really good triathlon watch, like really, really good. It's, you know, a lot better in some ways than Garmin's previous top of the line watch, the 945. And then when it comes to like lap swimming, Garmin has always kind of been my preferred go-to watch. I just like the way that they have, you know, drill mode for kick sets or anything like that. And you know, I've swam with this watch probably at least a half a dozen times with no issues. And then going onto the bike, same thing, you know, no major issues there as well. I did connect it to a variety of different bike tech, including, you know, a couple of power meters, an indoor smart trainer, a bike radar, a few external heart rate monitors, and didn't have a problem. And like I said before, GPS accuracy is fantastic. I would say, you know, significantly better than a watch like the 945. Now, if you guys are interested, I could definitely do a specific video talking about this watch as a very capable, affordable triathlon watch option, or maybe directly comparing this watch to, you know, some other triathlon watches on the market. Let me know in the comment section and I'll see about making that happen. And I don't have a ton of dislikes about the 255. I guess it would also be nice to see Garmin start to work on, you know, running power from this watch. Currently, you have to have a Garmin running dynamic foot pod or a Heart Rate Monitor Pro chest strap to get running dynamics like cadence or stride length or ground contact time and running power. There are other relatively affordable watch options on the market that do provide running power estimations. You know, I always call it running power estimations just because, you know, the watch is not really detecting any sort of measurable force as you run. But it doesn't mean that we don't want that. You know, Garmin, give us what we want. We want running power directly from the watch. But this announcement does kind of change the entire Forerunner lineup going forward. There's not gonna be quite so many products within that lineup. Going forward, it's going to be the Forerunner 55, the Forerunner 255 series, the Forerunner 945 LTE, and the Forerunner 955 series, which means, you know, there are going to be some absolutely amazing deals for the next little bit on some of those older devices, like the 945 or the 745. Again, I'll leave links below to, you know, some good deals. But if you haven't already picked up on this, I will say that I'm pretty excited about this watch. I do think that it's an exceptional value. And, you know, not just as a running watch, but I think it's a very, very capable triathlon watch. And I'd put it up there against really anything else on the market. So at 350 bucks, you know, I think that this is a great option. But as I mentioned before, Garmin also announced another watch today. That's their top of the line triathlon watch, the 955. And you can learn more about that, you know, right here somewhere. I'll also leave another link to a recent video that you guys might like over here. Either way, be sure to get out there, swim, bike, run, rinse, and then repeat it all over again. And we will see you guys on the next one.